What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About the League. I'm Jeff, joined tonight by two awesome guests, Alpha and Modric of White Wolf and Team Phoenix, respectively. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Excellent. How
Good.
about yourself?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Not all the guests ask, so that's appreciated.
Hey, I care about you.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So we are going into the last week of the regular season coming up. It's gone by in a blur, I guess. But before we talk about this coming week, let's go back, talk about last week where we had week 4 and just go over those series, review what happened, why it happened, things like that. Week 4, our first matchup was Option 12 against Northern Storm. I continued my streak of picking Option 12 matches wrong. It's now 4 in a row. Every time I start to believe in them, they don't do well. And then every time I doubt them, they 2-0. So that's really made me feel like I know what I'm talking about. What about you guys? I'll start with you, Alpha. What stood out to you? What were you thinking as you watched this one?
I mean, really, you could tell that it was a very fast start, especially game 1. Prowler on the Hecarim, he was setting up those early ganks really quick, and he was getting his laners be able to snowball from there. And so once he was able to get his lanes on board, he was able to really control the map with the objectives and everything. And it was really just the foot was never off the gas. Option 12, Northern Storm wasn't really able to recover from there.
Mm-hmm.
And then with that second game, a little bit closer, but there was a wild finish there where Northern Storm looked like they had the option to close it out or had the chance to, but Option 12 just came roaring right back.
Sounds good. All right. So Modric, we've seen Northern Storm. They started so hot. They looked so good in the first couple weeks. A little bit of a stumble lately. Do you think that they were overhyped at the beginning, or is it just, do you see their issues as being, pretty easily fixable?
It's kind of hard to tell. I believe in the first 2 weeks they were up against Blitzkrieg and
9 Lives.
9 Lives. And then they were 1-1 against us in week 3, and then 0-2 this week. I don't know. I don't know if it's a combination of other teams getting more practice together and like becoming more cohesive, whereas they kind of started out with a little bit more like synergy, or if they were just happened to play some of the bottom tier teams right away, and then are now starting to play against some of the teams that are up towards the higher end of the standings. I'm not a huge fan of their draft in game 1 either. I don't know if it's a lot of comfort picks, but it seems like Ashe and Set are more, kind of setting up. They do well in team fights, but like the LeBlanc and Kayn is kind of for setting up like picks on the side and like singling out one target at a time. So like I said, I don't know if those are more comfort picks, but it seems like they didn't really have a style to play around that game.
Cool. I like that. Good analysis. All right. So for both of you guys, I'll stick with you to answer first, Modric. Right now, it looks like these two teams are pretty likely to see each other in the first round of the playoffs. They both locked up playoff spots, and they're sitting 2 and 3 respectively right now. Do you think that this series will be different? And if so, how, if we see it again in 2 weeks?
Well, let's see. In 2 weeks, first round of playoffs. I don't know, because Option 12 seems like they're playing really solidly as a team, especially these last few weeks. Prowler in particular kind of scares me playing against him because we play against him this week. He seems like he excels on all kinds of junglers. He's good on carries like Hecarim, Nocturne, Yi. But then like game 2, he pulls out, Cho'Gath, or he played Malphite jungle. It's kind of some spicy picks. Like he's definitely a guy that likes to get ahead, like play pretty aggressively from the jungle. So I think most of their series come down to the Prowler diff, let's say. It's which Prowler are you going to get,
All right. So if they see each other in the playoffs, who do you think right now would
right now? I think option 12 for sure.
Okay. What about you, Alpha? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say the Northern Storm definitely, if they can get back to the form that they were in at the beginning and start playing some of these team comps that synergize together. Like game 2 was a little bit better with their draft. I definitely think that they can give them a run for their money.
All right. What about you, Alpha? What are your thoughts if these two teams played again in the playoffs?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I have them playing again in 2 weeks. Just where I'm predicting the standings are going to fall, they're gonna have to face each other as a 2 and a 3. But I mean, I'm expecting another close match. I think they started to figure some stuff out that second game, and being only a week removed from playing an opponent, you have that fresh in your mind. Hopefully, they were able to pick up some strategies from that second game, and can also pick up on some things to stay away from. But I do think that Prowler is going to be that difference maker. If you can really contain him or not, and limit his impact on the overall game, then I think you have a better shot of winning.
Cool. All right. So moving on to our second series from last week, it was Nine Lives against White Wolf, and Alpha, you played in this series, so I'm going to start with Modric. Actually, did you have any particular thoughts, anything that jumped out at you about this 2-0 that Nine Lives pulled off?
I think that at least from like what our team has talked about in the past, it seems like White Wolf in general likes to play around, like a lot of their wins come through Andy getting through the early game, farming up, and then playing some of these champions that can either like take over the late game or like scale like really well. Like he played Jace against us and just poked us out, scaled up. But when he's on champs like Darius and stuff, and he kind of gets picked on in one of those little tougher matchups, and especially with Wally getting Ezreal that can just stay so far back, dodge CC, stuff like that. It seemed like it was kind of just like an inevitable outcome. But it definitely seems like Nine Lives is probably the best team by far, I would say, so far at least. They play a different style than everybody else. It seems like Rolexis is so comfortable playing split push, whatever needs to be done to get the team the victory. So,
all right, Alpha, you were there. Tell me what happened.
Yeah, I mean, we ran into a juggernaut. That's basically the best way to put it. They came roaring out of the gates, and they really just never slowed down or let up. Your analysis is pretty right. Like we got outpaced on that top lane, and it really kind of impacted the game as a whole. There's some other gaffes in there, but I don't think that we were ready for quite the pace that they were bringing.
Neither were we. They deal with us too. So.
And yeah, so I mean, something you learn, you live and you learn, and hopefully maybe we'll get another chance to try something out against them.
All right. So I thought it was interesting. This was the first time that White Wolf did not 1-1 so far this season, and this might be speculative on my part, but I have heard, and I won't mention any names, but I have heard from multiple teams, multiple teams, that they have had moments this split where they've kind of gotten into it with each other, where the frustration has boiled over, where people are actually willing to call each other out, maybe talk about there's a sense of desperation when you 1-1 every week. And I'll start with you, Alpha. Do you think that there's a lack of like that sense of desperation when you never actually hit like rock bottom by being 2-0'd?
I mean, when you put it that way, I guess I don't think we ever came out of one of our 1-1 weeks like with our heads hung low. Getting win on a Sunday feels pretty good. But now coming off this 0-2, I can kind of see that. I can see that where we're we're a little bit more urgent, especially going into this last week where it means so much more for us to get a 2-0 on the board. I don't think that we consciously were getting into a false sense of security, but I could see how the feelings differ when you're going 1-1 versus 0-2.
All right. And Modric, do you have any thoughts on this? I know this is a question kind of tailored just for White Wolf, but if you have any thoughts, feel free to share.
Well, with the having quote unquote tensions boiling over with some of the other teams, fortunately, the 5 guys on our team, I mean, Huge has been one of my friends for a really long time, not just in League, but in IRL. And the rest of the guys, I mean, I've played either on LCUS teams or played a lot of games with those guys previously. So we haven't had any issues personally. We get along really well, and we have really good communication about like what things we need to work on and about our games in general. So thankfully there's none of that on our end. But we're just coming off our first 2-0, so it definitely feels a little bit easier this last week. But
sure.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the last set of last week's games. It was Team Blitzkrieg against Team Phoenix. Team Blitzkrieg was 2-0'd and therefore eliminated from the playoffs. I'll start with you, Alpha, since Modric took part in this series. What stood out to you?
Well, the first game, kind of just seeing the different top laners that J-Dog was playing. It was refreshing to see that he gave Shen a try, and he had some early success with it. And I was kind of pulling for him to, somehow outpace the Vayne, but I mean that's just a really tough matchup. But it was another one of those series that it just as soon as Phoenix was able to start getting some kills on the board, they just steamrolled that, especially that first game. They were able to just roll with it. And then, later on in the second game, it was a lot more closer. And but when it came to like the team fights with Phoenix's comp, they were just able to, kind of take it almost uncontested. So yeah, I mean, both teams did well, but All
right, Modric, what happened in this series from your perspective?
Well, first thing, we don't need to talk about level 1 in game 1 because that was fortunate. I don't know if you guys remember, but we caught Ezreal in the tri-brush bottom. We did a huge loop around through bot lane, and we ended up learning like 4 flashes, I think, to try to kill him, and he lived. So
feels bad, man.
That happened. We were like, well, 4 flashes down. Let's play safe for a little bit, but Huge and I ended up getting a kill like level 3 or 4 or something in bot lane anyway, so that ended up stabilizing out. But yeah, we just, after our first couple of weeks, I know Greatbeard Odin touched on it a little bit when he was on the podcast, but we kind of came together and realized like if we're going to play some of these styles that we want to play, we need to focus on getting early objectives and try and get leads early. Because it seems like in our losses in the first couple of weeks, we were kind of getting choked out either by Soul coming up or other teams going for these really early plays. So once we got to like work on that a little bit better, I think now our rotations and communications on how we want to play for those neutrals is getting a lot better. Cool. But I think I couldn't tell if it was, I don't think any of us could tell if it was really our best games of the season, or if it was just that we were playing against Blitzkrieg. No flame there, but I mean, the records kind of show it a little bit. It seems like they've been having a little bit of an issue with, I don't know if it's like their team dynamic or just how they're playing the game or anything like that. But yeah, it's either we picked it up and we're going to be playing better here. Hopefully that continues in the next week, but
all right,
I guess we'll find out.
Sounds good. Now, a lot of people picked Phoenix to be near the top of the standings in their preseason power rankings. So for you, Modric, I mean, you're obviously very well connected there. Do you feel like Phoenix is starting to get to that level where you guys are, a legitimate, serious contender with the teams at the top?
I mean, I may be a bit biased, but I think we're slowly but surely getting better. When the teams came out, I signed up as an ADC just so I could kind of play with some of these guys. That's what we were kind of trying for. Even though I played jungle, like I haven't really played a whole lot of ADC, so it's kind of new for me. But like I said, I mean, when we looked at the roster, I saw Brandano was our top laner, which we didn't know who we were going to get top lane. We kind of figured the rest of us would be on a team. So I know he was an AD in the LCUS too. So we kind of compared champ pools, and it's interesting because as the season's gone on, I think there's become a couple of like must bans, I guess people would say, against us. Like we've done really well with Maokai support, which is kind of a weird pick that nobody else plays. I've been playing a lot of Ezreal lately, and I think we had it banned against us once. Oh no, they just picked it again away from us. But Akali for Greatbeard Odin, Warwick for Alonzi, Lucian we can flex pick. So I don't know. When all's said and done, one of those is going to be available for us to pick. So
yeah,
I guess.
All right,
it's a lot.
All right, sounds good. So I'm going to move us along here to looking ahead to next week, which will be our final week of the regular season for Split 6. And Alpha, sorry, I feel like I went away from you for a while there. So I'll start with you for this first set, 9 lives versus Blitzkrieg. I personally have it predicted 2-0, 9 lives. Do you have any thoughts or predictions for this one?
Yeah, I have it going 1-1. Mostly because, 9 lives is already locked in their playoff spot. Blitzkrieg is already locked in, going to be watching the playoffs. But they have a chance to make a splash here in this last week and just do something that, kind of surprises us all with maybe some of their picks. So does 9 lives. Like, you're already playing in the playoffs. You're in pretty good in a pretty good spot for as far as seeding goes. So why not just try to mix it up, especially when you're here playing some organized games against an organized team. Why not try something else out and see if it works going into the playoffs.
All right, what about you, Modric? How do you see this one turning out?
Well, I mean, you guys both touched on it, but I think we're going to see some spicy drafts. That's my takeaway from this series, with both of them kind of being locked in with where they're going to be. I mean, 9 lives is still fighting for first seed, aren't they?
Right? Yeah, that's true.
So I guess there's that, but other than that, I think some of there's going to be some interesting picks, and especially top lane, I'm going to say, this last week.
All right.
But I think 1-1 is probably pretty fair. Maybe 2-0, 9 lives.
All right, sounds good. So moving on to set 2, that one, that'll be obviously crucial for you, Alpha. So I'll start with you, Modric. Northern Storm, White Wolf, what's your prediction?
Well, no shade intended here, but I'm hoping White Wolf at least drops one game. Then that clinches us in. So ideally, I'm hoping for 1-1, but I guess I could see the series going either way. Just more of an idea of which Northern Storm we're going to see.
If you had to put money on it, what would you put?
If I had to put money on it?
Yeah.
I wouldn't bet the house on it, but I'd say 1-1 if I had to bet.
Sounds good. All right. What about you, Alpha?
I also have a bias in this one. I mean, I didn't come on here to say that we don't know we're not going to make the playoffs. No, I think we're going to really come out and give it our all. I'm hoping that we can get that 2-0. Been doing our scouting pretty aggressively, trying to figure out what the game plan is here to finally etch out that 2-0. And make Phoenix earn their spot in the playoffs by having to go 2-0 themselves. So make that last set of games, interesting to watch at the very least.
I mean, as a spectator, that's certainly what I would like to see. For the record, I am also predicting a 1-1 here. Sorry, Alpha. Last set of, it will be the last set of the entire regular season, actually. Will be Option 12 against Team Phoenix. As we said, Team Phoenix might have something to play for. They might not. Option 12 already locked in their playoff spot, but they could play for seeding. For me, I've got this one going 1-1. What about you, Alpha?
Yeah, I'm also hoping it goes 1-1. Just, hopefully after we go the 2-0, the 1-1 will give us the tie break. But I mean, option 12 is a great team, so is Phoenix. So I can't really, decipher which one can really walk away with this. It could be anybody's game at this point, since they're both coming off 2-0 victories, riding that high.
All right. And Modric, you obviously have a vested interest here.
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Well, I'll ask two questions. First, what's the fastest game in LCUS history, and what's the fastest series? Because it's going to be a 2-0.
I don't know off the top of my head, but we can certainly find out and hold you to that.
I'm kidding, but I think it's going to be interesting if we happen to be clinched already. I know, like, if White Wolf goes 1-1, and we're in, we have some ideas planned for like things that we want to try. But if need be, we still have like those comfort picks and team styles that we've already played around. But I think option 12 is a good challenge for us, especially in the bot lane for Huge and I. They play really well in lane, so I know it's going to be a little bit tougher for us, but I don't have any doubts that we can come together as a team, and I think we're going to 2-0.
All right, awesome. So we actually have a couple of minutes. So I did want to go back for a second to just, and we don't have to talk about this long if there isn't much to talk about, but patch 10.21 notes were released recently. Do either of you guys have anything that you have seen or think that will be very important, whether it's in the LCUS or just in general League of Legends in that patch?
Let's see. Let me pull up the.
I personally don't read the patches.
Fair enough.
I just, I start playing and somebody tells me, "What are you doing?" Like, this champ's not good there anymore. I'm like, okay.
Well, yeah, you live and learn for sure.
Well, it looks like some nerfs to some of the junglers. It looks like, but not a lot of them are played in LCUS. Like, I know Graves and Nidalee are like the staple of pro play right now, but nobody really plays that in our league. I guess Hecarim is played a little bit here and there. Other than that, I don't really think that there's too much overlap. I wouldn't really see much of a difference, at least with like our games and stuff like that. So,
all right, sounds good. So we're gonna move on to some questions that some folks have submitted to us. Let's see, some are targeted at certain people, some are just for everybody. I think the first one is probably the most obvious one. Who do you guys think is going to get the last spot in playoffs? And you both obviously have a vested interest, but if you had to put money on it, taking out as much of your bias as you can, who do you think will be there?
I think Phoenix will get it done. I mean,
sure.
I do think that we'll get it done, but no matter which team gets in, I think both of us would deserve that last spot, and I think either one of us would give whoever the first seed ends up being a run for that series, maybe cause an upset. But no matter which of us get it done, I mean, I'm gonna support them and cheer for them the rest of the way. So
nice. And well, for you, I'm realizing that this was kind of a silly question as we talk about it, but you feel free to give your thoughts if you'd like.
I mean, I'm still gonna pull for us. I do, however, think that Phoenix probably has the easier path to that 4 seed. A lot has to be done on our end to begin with, and then it puts them in the bind. But if we don't perform, then it's game over, and they can sit back and play whatever style they want in their final set of games. So, but I mean,
yeah, it's sorry to interrupt you, but it's funny that it's one of each of us on these two teams.
All right. And so that I see somebody else submitting a question. What are going to be the first round matchups? Well, if we have your predictions for who's getting the 4 seed, that pretty much answers that question as well. Unless either one of you think that option 12 or Northern Storm are going to leapfrog 9 lives for the top seed.
I think, don't get me, if I'm wrong, don't Don't flame me, but I think if we O2 option 12, do we possibly get into second, third?
Let's see. If you guys 2-0 option 12 and Northern Storm does not 2-0, then yeah.
Then
No,
we
actually,
would-
yeah, you would just jump past option 12 regardless. So
Okay.
yeah, you guys could still be the 2 seed potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally it's going to be 9 lives and then like Northern Storm. I'm betting on us to get into that second, third.
All right, cool. And Alpha, unfortunately, White Wolf can only make 4 seed. So
Hey.
are you expecting 9 lives to hold on to the top spot?
I am having 9 lives hold on to the top spot, and 4 seed from last split for White Wolf. It's a good spot. Why not?
All right. And we have a question actually just for you here, Alpha. Someone submitted a question asking why you purchase Riley's Crystal Scepter so much.
I love it. I don't care. Well, okay. So I usually try to pair it with a Liandry's, just to especially when I'm facing a little bit of more of a beefy team, and I have like my Morgana, for instance. I always get it on her just because the pool. I mean, nobody really pays too much attention to the pool when they're just walking over it in lane, and then if you have the Rylai's and the Liandry's, it kind of procs that enhanced passive on the Liandry's, and sometimes it's sneaky. It can be sneaky strong sometimes.
Yeah, it's something else people have to think about.
And people just take that slow for granted sometimes.
All right, and then last question I want you guys to answer here. We talked about playoff seedings and all that, but it's 1 through 4, so there's only 2 rounds of playoffs here. Does playoff seeding actually really matter?
I would say no, personally.
Yeah.
I think just getting in is kind of like, it's almost like a reset. You could almost just draw them out of a hat and make the matchups, and they would be good either way, I think. Especially with it just being a single round robin, playing 2 games against every team. If you happen to play against one of those teams at the beginning of the split and things weren't working out, and then you play them again, it's like almost a completely different matchup. So I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. In certain competitions, playoff seeding does, come into play, but everybody in the split is, pretty well matched, and we see from week to week any team can pull off a victory, and so I don't think it matters too much going into the playoffs here.
All right, sounds good. Well, I've got something that I'm going to say to wrap things up, but before I do that, first of all, I want to thank you guys both for being on with me tonight. Are there any final thoughts that either of you want to share with folks?
Yeah, shout out Greatbeard Odin. He plays control mages now, so watch out, rest of the league.
Spoiler.
we're working our way up to playing Morgana mid like everybody else. So
I was about to say that. I'm waiting for that Morgana to come out.
The pocket pick Morgana mid is coming when in playoffs if we make it there. So, but shout out to my boy.
Yeah, looking forward to that. No, I mean, good split, everybody. I think we got some exciting games to look forward to, and hopefully they all mean something in the end.
All right, awesome. Well, so here's my spiel, everybody. Here's how it is. Most of you probably know this. Yesterday, the entire LCUS received a warning about bad manners and toxicity, a reminder about the rules, and just a blanket warning for everybody. So the next offense by anybody, if it's formal and everything, will lead to a legitimate penalty. I got to say, for me, at first, I thought it was kind of a strange choice for this blanket warning. But then I was thinking about it, and I realized it would definitely be hard to separate and specify who deserves a warning and who doesn't. And that's because guilt in this case is in the eye of the beholder. It's relative. It's a matter of opinion. And so, yeah, the question is, have some people in the LCUS been more toxic than others? Yes. Have they been objectively toxic? That's a matter of opinion. There are a lot of sides to this issue. There are a lot of angles at which we can approach each one. But in summary, I believe, and once again, we have an opinion here, that a lot more people are to blame than those people themselves might realize. There's a fine line between sarcasm or jokes and passive aggression. And that line is not only fine, but it's also fickle because it moves. because it's relative. So what one person might call playful banter, someone else might take as a personal attack. You might euphemize words as being spicy, but you got to have the courtesy to recognize that some people don't have the taste buds for spice. In the past, I've come down on a couple players while casting, and afterward I wondered if I maybe overstepped, seeing as we're a casual fun league. What I said might have been factually correct, but whether or not it was appropriate could still be questioned. What must be understood is that rules change in different environments. What you can say in the bar to your friends is not the same as what you can say to your coworkers at the office. It's not the same as what you can say to maybe strangers in that same bar. When we sign up to be a part of the LCUS, we're joining a community. And a key element of being a part of any community is understanding and adhering to the rules and regulations therein. In a day and age in which we communicate through text more often than spoken word, it's pretty easy for things to be underthought, overstated, or misinterpreted. So if you have a problem with somebody, think about reaching out to them directly rather than just exchanging sarcastic or passive-aggressive messages in a public group chat. We've had about 10 weeks of this building up, in my opinion, going all the way back to the practice matches. For some, it's mattered more than others. I'm sure there are some who wonder what the big deal is. For others, they might feel as though they're innocent despite having possibly contributed to the overall problem. There might also be those who were initially instigators, but have tried to tone it back, only to now find themselves being targets. And of course, I'm sure there are many of you, like myself, who have been happy to just stay out of it. But I thought that it was time for me to speak up, because I think that for some people, this is actually starting to ruin the experience. That might just be my own perception, but I find it alarming. So the next time you think about memeing somebody or making an offhanded comment, just take an extra second. It might not be toxic, it might not even be misinterpreted as such, but it also might not be the least bit clever or even interesting, and overall just kind of pointless. Regardless, in my opinion as a caster, what happens on the Rift speaks louder than anything that could be said in Twitch chat. So when it comes to what happens on the Rift, let's try to leave it there. Thanks again for our guests, Modric stepping in at the last minute, and Alpha for joining me tonight. Make sure that you tune in for the final week of the regular season, Sunday at 5:30 p.m. We'll find out who will lock into the final playoff spot for Split 6 of the LCUS. Have a good week.